Hey everyone, today we're going to be discussing the S30 front lower control arms. Now these fit a 240Z, 260Z, and 280Z. We're going to be going over what's included, dust boot options, the construction of the control arms and the tension arms, the QC process, as well as the base settings and the color options that we offer. So first we're going to go with what's included. What you're going to have initially is going to be a hardware pack. You're going to have your pair of control arms, your pair of tension arms, your pair of sway bar links, a pair of these aluminum step washers, a pair of these U-brackets, and if you selected dust boot options, 4 dust boots for the heim joints, the 2 that are on the tension arm and the 2 that are on the front control arm. Now the dust boots, these don't come assembled, but these are rubber dust boots that you slide onto the bearing sides of the control arm. Now one thing that you'll notice is that you have a fixed end and a bearing end. You only put the dust boot on the bearing end because there's a swivel on the bearing. You don't want dirt and debris to get in there if you plan to daily drive your car. Control arms are steel construction. They're fully welded design. They have a integrated ball joint and a double threaded adjuster to make adjustments easy. On the tension arm, you have an aluminum scallop tube, which is going to be very strong, very rigid, and has opposite ended threads to make caster adjustment super easy. The tie rods have a bearing along with the polyurethane bushing for the sway bar. These aluminum step washers are aluminum, and the steel constructed U-brackets. Next, we're going to go over the QC process that we started implementing to provide the customers with the most satisfaction that we can have. So the QC process converts in our binder. We have a packing list accuracy. We want to make sure that every item that is being packed and shipped is the correct item and is thoroughly checked before it ships. We're going to have a hardware sheet accuracy. We want to make sure all the items are in the hardware sheet, and if anything is missing, we take note of that. We also have a cosmetic threshold just to make sure that there's no major chips or anything prior to shipping. Now, something that sometimes people will notice is they'll leave a little bit of space right here. That's for where we have to hook the material. Unfortunately, that's kind of unavoidable. We do try to go over that with a paint pen, so then it kind of still seals it, but we have to hook the parts for powder coating process. Next, we check all the holes to make sure all the holes are free of BBs and have open bolt locations. So here we have our key ring of hole locations. We check to make sure that the holes are tight but not too loose and that the bolt is able to go through it freely. We also check each hole with the 3/8 measurement to make sure that there's nothing that is going to be stuck in there, so that when you go to install the sway bar link, it's easy. And then finally, we have the bolt locations for our U-brackets to make sure that the U-brackets have enough clearance and the powder coating isn't too thick. Finally, we go to machine surfaces as part of our QC. Now, these control arms don't necessarily have any machine surfaces. We're bearing seat, so we can skip that step on these control arms. Next, we go with threads. We make sure that all the threads are easily accessible. Not only are they able to spin by hand, this is to ensure that there's no grit from the sandblasting process, so then the items are able to be adjusted really easily by the end user. And finally, we have the bushings. And the bushings, we just make sure that we have the correct bushings and the bushings are installed correctly. They're not upside down, they're not backwards. In this case, they're proper because the sway bar sits in here. The customer unbolts this and then rebolts it on once he installs the sway bar. So that covers our QC process. Next, we're going to go over the base settings. The base settings of the front lower control arm is usually past the jam nut. You can tell here, we didn't even do that. So I'm going to go ahead and unthread this a little bit. Usually when they come shipped, they would come all the way in. So here you can see we have about a 1/4 inch of thread exposed past this outside jam nut. That's the base setting for the front lower control arm. So next, we're gonna go over the tension arm. Now, we would use the hole closest to the ball joint. This allows you to have the most strength if you're planning to keep the factory style track width, plus or minus about a 1/2 inch. As you start widening your track width, you will have to start moving your holes down, as well as your sway bar link hole down. The next thing is the tension arm setting. Now again, these are gonna come fully inside, and we recommend to have them about a 1/4 inch of thread of exposed. So then that's a good starting point until you get a proper professional alignment done. This will be your base settings. That pretty much wraps up the base settings of the control arm. Finally, we're gonna go over color options. Now this is our wrinkle black or hammered black finish. This comes standard in our front lower control arms. It's a beautiful color, it's very durable, and is very chip resistant. Now this is great if you're gonna be daily driving your car, but sometimes if you wanna have a little more zazz in your color choice, you can take a look at the video here that explains all the different color options. And if you really wanna get an in-depth view on how to install these onto your car, take a look at the YouTube video right over here for the installation video. Thanks for watching. If you have any other questions, always give us a call or shoot us an email. Thanks.